We have got a special recording tonight. Man, none other, the legend, the myth, my pops. He's going to get on the call, actually speak out to you in just a minute. But before I do any of that, I just also want to remind everyone who's listening, who's watching right now, as we're right here in Brooklyn, so to speak. Welcome to Culture Unplugged. This is the digital mentorship channel for young Black men to thrive and achieve greatness. I am the host, Chris, and tonight, again, as I said earlier, a special event. We're talking about how to handle rejection. So, personal relationships. You didn't get that job offer. You didn't get that college application. Um, you know, let's just say you saw that girl you liked and she said no. So if that is you, you're in the right place. Just stay right where you are because you definitely don't want to miss what we get ready to talk about. So again, definitely welcome. All right. So basically, I'm gonna ask my pops. Pops, you there?
I sure am.
Okay, pops. We happy to have you here, man. This is my pops. We've talked about so many things
Mhm.
and so many cool conversations. And before we even kind of get into all that stuff, definitely want to ask you three questions. We do this for every show, and the three questions are, I know where you from. I know what these questions mean is for you, but people don't know. So, first question is, where are you from? And the next one will be, what do you do? And who was your first crush and why? So let's start off from that. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Quebec, Canada, born there, but I'm actually my parentage is Haitian from Haiti.
Okay.
And you wanted to know who was my first crush?
Well, what do you do? What do you do actually?
Oh, I work for the Board of Education. I'm a school bus driver slash photographer. I do weddings, headshots.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. And so then, when you
That's the creative part of what I love to do.
okay, dope. And then who was your first crush and why?
And she was a very attractive young lady. She was the first experience that I ever had. We were school together, and we just clicked on a very simple level. And I used to really enjoy talking to her, and it was something that just happened all by itself.
Wow. So do you recall, you know, um, if it actually went anywhere? Did you actually reach out?
Actually, it didn't go anywhere because I was very young,
Uh,
and she met another guy that she liked better than me, and she went from one guy to another guy, and that was my first rejection.
wow. Okay.
And at the time, I didn't really know how to handle it, really.
And that kind of really leads into what this episode is all about.
Hmm.
The fact that is, how do we handle it when we don't even know
Hmm.
how to really cope? What is some things that we can do to get over it?
Mhm,
How can we retain the power that's in us to just be able to
mhm,
just move forward? And again, this
mhm,
is not just about relationships. Even though
mhm,
we come across the relationships of people we like and care about, whether it be friends, girlfriends, boyfriend, girlfriends, whatever, um, or even if you're in a situation to where you got something that you're waiting to get approved for. It happens. We all get rejected for some odd reason, but it's the fact
mhm,
that what are the steps that we're going to take to be able to get over that. So before we get into the main topic of the show, I
mhm,
want to ask three, I guess, 3 to 4 questions that are fun, real fun questions that
mhm,
actually I think you'll enjoy. So, and it's from a game. It's called Black Card Revoked. It's one of my favorite games, by the way, Pop. All right.
mhm.
So the game is this. So the question is this: at the bare minimum, a guy should do this for a date. Is it A, pay for the meal, B, dress nice, C, make sure she gets home safely, or D, send a good morning text the next day?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay, we can rock with that. Even though that's actually not a selection. So
Okay.
the bare minimum a guy should do: either dress nice, make sure she gets home safely. Said I mean I would appreciate, obviously, we could do the whole thing, but Out of A, B, C, or D, which one the most?
Make sure she gets home safely.
Okay, hey, absolutely. That's the most we can do. That's the most humane thing we can do. All right,
Mm.
next question is: your boss calls you in and says there's been a complaint about your hair. Do you A, get a more acceptable haircut? B, start looking for another job? C, tell her to mind her damn business because she don't know she lost her damn mind? Or D, educate her on her black hair? What would you do?
I would do some educating on black hair and just
Hmm,
currently what's going on today.
absolutely. That's very controversial to be just talking about somebody's hair like that.
Exactly.
I know I would. I definitely would tell, like, look, I might want to go mind your damn business.
Mm.
I might have a job the next day, but anyway. So the next one is your boss is out of pocket and tells you and your coworkers to shut the F up. Do you A, talk mess under your breath? B, cry in the bathroom? C, report him to HR? Or D, act a fool, then look for a new job?
Definitely do the report to HR.
I had a feeling you was gonna say that, Pop. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you really feel like, look, hey, you're trying
Mhm,
to lose your job, you're trying to have a job the next day,
mhm.
probably that'd be the best thing. All right, last one, I promise. What might you need to do before slamming your door? It's according to Mama. Okay, what might you need to do before slamming your doors? A, fix your attitude. B, do some homework. C, help out around the house. Or D, pay some damn bills.
Adjust your attitude.
Okay, absolutely. Fix that attitude. All right, there we go. All right, so questions are done. Want to be able to just kind of, hey, say, Pops, thanks for playing. That was cool. That was fun. I pretty much kind of expected what you might say, so
Mm.
that wasn't nothing gonna be too difficult. But getting into the main topic, the whole reason why we're here is how to handle rejection. So, Pop, what would you say? You know, that you would do as far as handling rejection? You just got rejected by someone. Maybe you can actually just share with us a story where you got rejected. How did you handle it?
Rejection is part of the game. Rejection is always a possibility. I think that what you have to do when you approach someone that you're interested in meeting is to take it slow and don't put your emotions first. You shouldn't invest so much feeling in someone that you're just getting to know. And one of the best ways to avoid more pain, serious pain in rejection, is not to be so serious to begin with. You know, I
Mhm.
know that's not as easy, it's much easier said than done, but that really is what you need to do. And don't put yourself up like it's such a failure because you never want to push something that's just not going to be from the very beginning. You want something to flow. And always remember, there's a lot of doors out there, a lot of doors. You'd be surprised what can happen from door one to door two. But trust me, when you walk into the right place or you meet the right person, it won't be as difficult as you might think to be able to get that interaction going on both sides of the fence and make it good for both of you.
Sure. So you brought up something. You said something earlier that kind of stuck out is not investing so much energy or emotion into it right off the bat. And so what comes to mind is a situation to where, and it's kind of bring back to a story where I saw this girl that came into where we were both working. She came in. I never saw her before. I was working at this retirement home. This little backstory. I was working at this retirement home, and I think I was like behind the register, whatever. She came up, made an order, whatever. From the very first time I saw her, I was like, wow, like this girl is gorgeous, whatever. And I actually felt so convinced and and dreamt with enough energy I wanted to go find her. So I went all the way to the apartment where she was working at, and I said to her, once I got to her, I said, "Hey, I saw you da 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 earlier, and I thought you was cute. I thought you looked nice. I wanted to take you out, whatever." And she actually obliged. She gave me we exchanged phone numbers, whatever. I think we went on like maybe 1 or 2 dates, and then it just ended right there after that. Like I just was like, I didn't. I tried to call her, nothing. Another story, real quick, real fast. I was dating this girl. We had plans to go on this date. She had told me, "Hey, come to my place 7:30, 7 o'clock, something like that." And I was gonna go pick her up. I went there 7:30, and I was even before I even got there. I called her up and was like, "Hey, I'm about to be on my way." But she didn't pick up. So I got there. I'm knocking on the door. Nobody's there. She's not picking up the phone. Try to even hours later, just to be like, "Hey, what happened?" Nothing. The next day, nothing. I mean, total rejection in a way where I was like, I had to check myself. I had to be like,
Mhm. Mhm.
I was so convinced that everything was going well. So, and
Mhm.
that's a whole other subject as far as like what we call ghosting now, right? But
Yeah,
the
exactly.
rejection in that way was so crazy that I didn't even know how to handle it. I was kind of like I was
Mhm.
like kind of feel in my feelings for like a good maybe few weeks.
Mhm.
So, what do you think?
Chris, it's amazing how we try to predetermine how we're going to feel or how we should feel or how we should go about making the first moves. And then when you meet that certain person, all the rules go out the window because as hard as you try to keep your emotions in check, you just couldn't control it because let's face it, it's someone that you really like. It's someone that basically has charmed you and you are hoping that there can be a connection there.
Right.
But the reality is that in life, it just doesn't always happen that way. But I'm going to tell you something. It should be more important to you that you realize it has to be a two-way street.
Right.
It can't just be one-sided. This is where the strength of character comes in. Just because you want it doesn't mean that you're going to get it.
Right. Agreed.
And that shouldn't be the only person that you approach.
I would
And
agree.
that helps a lot when you focus so much. I would go out of my way to say that when you meet someone that you really like, you should go out of your way to try to meet more people.
So let me ask you this. So what about what if I asked you a strategy would be for a young guy who's watching this show right now, who's saying, yeah, I like that. I can, it makes sense in some way, but what if how do I control how do I handle the emotions I may feel? I will tell you this: if you're watching this show right now and you're thinking that, one of the very first things that I realized as I got a little older was, it's not just them that's gonna say no. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes you're gonna find excuses. Sometimes you're not gonna find an excuse. You're just going to say, something. I don't want to deal with this person. I don't like this person like that. And you're gonna, reject that person, and that happens, or that could happen. However, you're realizing it's a two-way street. So if it's something that you're in a situation where it's somebody that you really feel convicted, conviction about, that you want to actually pursue, she says no, or just says basically, blows you off or something like that. Focus on your purpose. Focus on exactly. I know you hear it plenty of times on other channels. Other people say this too. Focus back on your why. So if you got to take time away, 3 months, 4, 5, 6 months, to go back to your original strategy on what is it you're doing, your end goal, your priorities. So whether you got that means going to the gym, that means go back into school, if that means. And I'm not saying doing this to get that girl like you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the more you focus on your priorities, the more the eyes and the women will come. Women will always come in and out of your life until you get to that one, if that's your goal, right? But at the end of the day, when you're working on you and you focus on that, the more eyes come to see you. It's so crazy in situations where maybe I lost weight, I got my master's, or I was doing things that was focused on me. How I was getting my DMs were getting flooded, or I was getting phone calls, or I hate big head, or whatever the case may be, and I was so shocked. So, Pop, I think what you're saying is, another strategy of overcoming it, is to be able to focus back on yourself. Would you agree?
I agree. Um, all too often, when a man pursues a woman, if it's someone he's really into, he'll put so much effort into that he'll start dropping out of the things. Basically, like what you said, lose focus. And you can't afford it. You should never make a person the central focus of your universe, especially someone that you're still getting to know. How
Sure,
do you know she's worth it? You
sure.
know, a lot
So
of times, let's face it, we're attracted to a physical appearance. And believe me, I know it can be very powerful. But you said it yourself, you know, don't lose yourself in someone that you don't even know yet. And if it's going to be that difficult, it makes sense to open your eyes and broaden your horizons and try to meet other people. You should never really focus on that one person until it becomes obvious that person and you have really, really made a connection.
hmm. So can you tell us a time where maybe you actually rejected the other person, and how did you feel after that?
Well, see, I'm glad you asked that question. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. All of a sudden, the tables have turned, and now you are making a judgment as to whether or not you want to be with this person. Just think about the fact that you are interested or you're not interested. If you're not interested in someone, nothing is going to make you change your mind if you're not attracted to that person. The same thing happens when it's your turn. It doesn't feel very good to be rejected on either way, but at least you get to understand what that's really all about. And rejection can come in all forms and all times. We as men get rejected, and sometimes we'll meet women that we know are we're not interested in, and they'll be all about trying to get close to us, and we're not interested. So when you think about that, it should help you be able to handle rejection much better because hey, just because you're not interested in someone, the way you go about expressing that says a lot about you and how you would want someone to treat you if the situation was reversed. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think I remember a conversation we had one time, and we said the fact that it may not be for us. That opportunity may not be for us, and it definitely on the flip side where I have passed up on someone that I actually seen this person went ahead and got married, got kids, and I rejected her. And it was this feeling of,
Loss.
yes, like I was like taken back, like this actually happened. That could have been me. I could have had some kids, and the
Right.
kids was looking good. Nothing wrong. It's a
Right.
beautiful kid. But
Right. Right.
you
Right.
just think about right then, like, okay, did I pass up on some sort
Mm.
of happiness because
Boy,
of,
do I boy
huh?
do I have a boy do I have an answer for you. You know, it's easy. It's Let me tell you something. It's easy to make assumptions about how things might have worked out. But remember that life is not like that. The way that things worked out for that particular couple is not necessarily the way that it would have worked out for you and that person. Remember, you're seeing the end result of that relationship. Okay.
Right.
You can never be certain about how it would have worked out had that been you.
This is true. This is
You
very
know, you're making an assumption that it would be exactly the same. Oh, not necessarily. You know?
True. This is true. And this, and, you know, the bottom line, and we're gonna end this. We're gonna end about, you know, relationships and you know, rejection in that way. But one of the things is that I realized there's so many people out there in the world. You know,
Hmm.
whether you are, you know, gay, whether you're straight, whatever, you know, your background, your lifestyle is. There's so many people out there in the world. If it's, especially if women, there's women come and go. I said this earlier. The women really do come and go, man. I'm at 33. I can tell you right now, I've had situations where, yes, if I would have pursued it, sure, it would have gone into something, but you can only choose one. Eventually, if you don't, you're not ready to make, you know, just choosing one. Take your time. Just take your time. Be smart about it. Um, but one of the very first thing I will tell you is that there's just so many women out there that you will come and go out of your life.
Hmm.
If you are 21, if you're 18, 19, there's no excuse why you should not be focused on the next 5-year plan for you. There's no excuse why you shouldn't be focused on building your credit. There's no excuse why you should not be focused on things that mean importance for your life. You want to set your life up, okay? You can have
Hmm.
your fun and all that stuff, but be smart about it. Because I'm gonna
Hmm.
tell you something. You get in a situation where you be chasing down this girl, you eventually do get her. Let's say you do get her. You do get her, and I know we've had conversations about this too, Pops. Something happens where now you're stuck with her for 18 years or forever, really, and
Okay.
there's no turning back. You go back and say, "Wow, I should have maybe turned her into a rejection. Maybe I should have rejected her. Maybe it shouldn't have worked out." The more times you try to force a screwdriver into a screw that won't really fit, you warp the screw, and the screw is no good.
Mhm. That's very true.
Making sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
So, you know, I'm gonna leave on that end on relationship, unless you had something else to add to the women and rejection tidbit.
Just this. Just want to support what you just said. Don't force something that, for whatever reason, is just not going to work. And trust me, you can trust your instincts. The phone calls that you don't get, reciprocation that you don't get. It should be a two-way street. When for some reason you're not getting the same type of communication, or you have to work so hard to get this person to respond to you, especially in the beginning, it's time to move on. Like you
Absolutely.
pointed out very well, there's so many people out there. There's so many women out there. You shouldn't take it as a character destruction. Your character, like your whole life has been destroyed just because this person turned you down. It might have been the very best thing that could have happened. And that's what I think about that.
Absolutely, Pop. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so the next obviously section I wanted to get into was dealing with rejection in jobs. You know, a lot of times when I've applied for jobs, I kind of felt like, well, once I got a little bit more experience, I just post my bachelor's. I got my bachelor's degree and all that stuff. At the time, I started applying everywhere. And there's a lot of, it was a key job. I didn't really know what I wanted to do right out of college, but I felt like I was gonna try anything. I think the first job I actually had out of college was I was a shoe salesman at this department store, selling
Okay.
like shoes or whatever. But anyway, the jobs that I really wanted
Mhm.
were like professional jobs. Like there were people that were known to be like well-known good jobs, but got denied, got rejected, whatever. Um, and a lot of times, the first initial reaction you see from an email that says, "I'm sorry to inform you, you're no longer considered." You're like, I'm no longer considered.
Mhm.
I am. You know, do you know who I am? I mean, you want to like argue about it. So something like that happens, Pop. You know, on a professional standpoint. You know, what are some things that someone you think someone can do, young man can do to you know, look at other resources to do better, or look at other resources to just maximize his growth. What could he do to overcome that?
Analyze the interview. Think over not only what you said, but how you said it. Um, The tone of the interview. Let's break it down. Depending on the kind of job that you're going after, you want to make sure that you're qualified.
Mm,
And by qualified, you want to know that you have actually had a job like that before and you have some experience behind it as well. When you're going for an interview, besides the fact that you're qualified, it's also about selling yourself.
mm,
It's funny how some people can be so qualified, but they just don't do very well with the human interaction. Now, let's think about that for a minute. If you're going for a sales position, but you don't present yourself as someone that can connect with people,
mm.
do you honestly think they're going to want to take you for the job when you are going to be dealing with people on an on again, off again, constant basis? Of course not. So it goes back to what I was saying before. You need to analyze your qualifications for that job and how you present yourself, being able to be qualified to show that you are qualified. You know,
Right.
another thing too, to be brief, and I'll keep it brief. You go to so many interviews and you see how that goes.
Mm.
And if everything else is equal, then you really should start looking at what's going on. What could you be doing that's creating an issue where you're not getting considered for these jobs, or how far in the hiring process do you get? You know,
Sure, sure.
some jobs will give you an initial interview. Then, if they're interested in you enough, they'll want you to go to another interview and perhaps even a third interview. Well, if you make it to step three, then that means you definitely have something that caught their interest. You shouldn't take it personal that you didn't get to the fourth and last interview. It may be a simple fact of how they thought about how you came off to them, and a question of just as to whether they liked you or not. Just like any type of relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did anything wrong per se.
It's and you know something that's I couldn't agree with you more. I know that there were some interviews where I knew that this was gonna go well for me, and I knew I had the job. And then there were others you were undecided about, or you just didn't get that feeling. I'm a big on energy. I'm on energy. I'm big on chemistry. I can be very vocal, but if you're someone who you find yourself having a hard time expressing yourself, and eventually we'll have videos about that, but if you have a hard time expressing yourself, one of the very first things that I remember doing, especially when I was like super, super nervous about an interview, because you're in front of this person, different culture, different background, interviewing you, you don't know from Adam, is not necessarily will look um, focus so much about saying everything right. I think always had a hard time making sure I try to say every little thing. But if you prep, you prepare yourself, you talk to yourself like you're having a conversation with yourself, not around a lot of people because you don't want people to think you crazy. But if you're in a situation to where you kind of practice a little bit and it'll flow no matter, what, as long as you know for sure when you walk in that room that you're just flowing, you're having a normal conversation. It's a conversation because at the end of the day, too, not only is the job the prize, but you're also the prize too because you're the talent. And it depends on if that company is worthy of your talent. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes a whole lot of different stipulations with it. But I know I've been overlooked and passed up. But as many times I've been overlooked, there's another job that said, "Hey, we want you," and I either had to think about whether or not I wanted to take it or not.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you said that got my mind thinking. Let's go back to the interviewing process for just a minute. You're sitting across the table. The interviewer, of course, is sitting across from you. Now, when you're asked a question, how you answer those questions, it doesn't matter what it pertains to. How engaged was the interviewer? You can always tell if an interviewer is really interested in what you have to say based on their reaction to what you say. Listen, the verbal cues never change.
Mm,
Of course, of course, you're being put into a position where you are being judged. But did you know that you can reverse that whole scenario? Remember that you're judging the interviewer too. Look, fear is something that can create a lot of problems with you, where it can make you feel very vulnerable, overly so. It's so important to take control of nervousness. You can be nervous during the interviewing process, but you can actually calm yourself down as you speak when you are clear and you're focused on your answers and how you're presenting them and how the interviewer is reacting to how you speak. If you're turning the interviewer off, trust me, like you said before, you're going to know when an interview is going well. You're going to know when an interview is not going so well, just by those physical cues and even the follow up questions, the facial expressions, and so on from the interviewer. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will say this too, that you didn't get the job, or you didn't get that, you got that email that said, we're going to consider other candidates. I'm going to say this too, screw them. I'm right to say, just screw them. I'm
Mhm.
going to do my next thing, which is I'm going to go back into my skills. I'm going to brush up my skills, and I'm going to go ahead and apply for another one. Sometimes jobs are not that very much different than women. It's a volume situation. At the get go, at one point, it's a volume. The more people you meet, the more jobs you meet, the more interviews you meet, there's likely going to be a yes at some point.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I do believe in the power of volume. And so, again, one of the things I used to do right after a rejection like that, it would motivate me to get to another interview. If it's a situation where you need money, this day and age is so many ways of making legal money that you should not be a situation where you should be worried
Mhm.
about that. That's and you
Mhm.
a lot of different things, entrepreneur stuff. You can make money online, whatever you got to do. But as far as just the job itself, just getting over that, jump right back in and apply for another one. As soon as you get that
Yep.
email, go right into it.
Mhm.
Brush up on your skills. Look over have someone who is knowledgeable about resumes. Ask them to look over your resume. Ask them to actually do a role play and role play with that person and see how
Right.
it sounds. So definitely that's the bottom line. The next thing is rejection when we're facing something that we're applying for other than jobs. So maybe you're applying for a car or whatever. You don't have enough credit yet. You don't have enough. Eventually get in the topic of credit, but things like that, don't sweat it. Just focus on you building your finances, building on what you need to do so that you won't get rejected in the future. It happens. We get rejected for all kind of stuff, right, Pop? As an adults, you know,
Absolutely.
it's always gonna be that. So it's not everything's gonna be a yes. That's just not the way our life works.
Yeah. That's
You gotta
right.
control inside. If you're emotionally feeling like you're connected to the rejection as it's personal, it is nothing personal. It is nothing personal against you. I used to think that nothing was just going right, and everything that I was trying to do was going wrong, and it doesn't have to be that way. I
Yep.
need you to focus on, again, back on your principles, back on your purpose, on what you're looking to do. You don't know, I hate to be morbid about this, but you don't have that much time on this earth. You don't know when your time is up. So I
Yeah.
need you to be thinking about your legacy and what you can do to contribute to the world. And, if you're a young man, you're 18, 19, 20, just, find a book and read, do something productive, do something progressive, make it
Mhm.
happen. You'll be okay. And it'll eventually you'll get to where you want to be. And Pops, any thought to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, just because the first door closes does not mean, and I like what you said. Go right back out there again and interview again. Role play. All of these are techniques to make you a better interview, where your interviews will be more successful. You know.
Agreed.
And again, don't take it so personally. Analyze what may have gone wrong. Go right back out there and go at it again.
Absolutely. Pop, something? This was exactly everything that I wanted to be for our listeners, for everybody that's watching.
Okay.
I can't do nothing but thank you utmost.
Well, you're very welcome. You're
Before I
very
even
welcome.
close, I want to see any what you like. What is your final thought for someone who is? I enjoy our conversations because I get the gift of being able to have the conversation with you all the time. They get to hear you every now and again. So for those young men out there, maybe the young man that used to be, what would you like to tell him?
About relationships and the first steps to meeting someone that you like, don't focus so much on that one person, whoever that person is. Allow yourself to socialize. One of the best surprises out there is realizing there's so much out there, but you won't know that if you focus on one person. The very person that you're interested in may actually end up coming to you
Mm,
if you don't seem so needy.
hmm.
Sometimes the man that stands to the side is more attractive to women than men that are constantly pursuing a woman and just doing it all the wrong way. So just relax, socialize, don't be afraid to meet people, and you might be surprised it'll come your way.
So true. Pops, thank you so much. I'm going to close with this quote because this quote was a bombshell. And I think it does actually coincide with what we talked about tonight. But it's every time I thought I was being rejected from something good, I was
Mm,
actually being redirected to something better. And that is
mm.
by Dr. Steve Maraboli. You guys, if it's your first time to Culture Unplugged, again, we're gonna have many more episodes like this, similar to this, talk about all kind of range of topics. We're talking to you. We're talking to making sure that we get you thriving for success. Um, do see us again next week, and we'd love to have you. And thank you again, Pop. I appreciate you. And definitely love you, and thank you for everything that you do. Uh,
Thank you.
and thank you for coming to Culture Unplugged.
Thank you so much, and have a good night. Take care of yourself. Thanks
Uh,
for having me.
anytime, Pop. Anytime. All right, guys. Take it easy.